Alright, hey guys. So at the time of recording, it is March 1st. It is the day after I faced off against B-Town Brelooms. The match happened. I won't spoil what happened. But somehow my audio didn't record, which is really upsetting. So I'm just going to do some post-commentary, which is something I've never done before. So let me actually pull up the replay right now, after I go over a few things. So the first thing, is the team I brought. So I built primarily around two win conditions. They were Gyarados, setting up Dragon Dance, two of them, and then hitting Crunches and Ice Fangs to win, taunting Skarmory if it came in to prevent Whirlwind, and the other one was Baton Pass Celebi into Electrium Z Zapdos. This is so weird doing it after the fact and trying to think back to yesterday as well as today, and like my whole thought process. So he had a team of Mega Gardevoir, Kyurem Black, which is so scary, Toxapex, Crocodile, Tornadus, Cofagrigus, Bruxish, Skarmory, Breloom, Kamala, and Zebstrika. So initially I built primarily around Gardevoir. Yeah, primarily Gardevoir. So I brought Florges to help stop that, as well as especially defensive Arcanine, which can survive a hit, do Flare Blitz, and then Extreme Speed. So I expected him to bring Mega Gardevoir, Kyurem, Toxapex, Crocodile, Skarmory, Breloom. Those were the 6 I expected. I was thinking if he brings Bruxish, I have good answers to that. Cofagrigus just loses to Gyarados, as well as +2 Zapdos. Tornadus isn't a big problem because I have Zapdos as a win condition and it can't do much to Gyarados. And those were my only thoughts. Komala, I didn't have to worry about, and Zebstrika, I only had to speed creep. That was its only play into my team building process, which I built. Well, Zapdos originally only outsped Kyurem, but then I was like, screw it, I'll just speed tie Gardevoir, I don't care. So originally this was Thunderbolt, Roost, Hidden Power, Ice, and Agility, and I realized, wow, if I'm running this much speed just to outspeed Kyurem at base, what's the point of even having Agility at this point? I can go for another move. So I chose Ancient Power because I was looking through Zapdos moves, special moves, and I said, alright, Air Cutter doesn't do jack for me, nor does Extra Sensory. Heat Wave, I mean, it helps me hit things better on switch-in than other moves, but overall I needed something to hit Kyurem better, because I couldn't just set up freely. So I needed that Ancient Power, and I was like, hey, I can get the boost. Wouldn't that be funny if that happened? Nidoqueen, I built with Rocks, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Sludge Wave. This is the exact same set, or exact same spread I used last time I faced B-Town. I picked Sludge Wave over Poison Jab. So Poison Jab I was originally running because it could KO Gardevoir with no investment, and that was mine as special attack, and I was like, that's really dumb. Then I don't do enough damage to other things, and why would I stay in on Gardevoir with Nidoqueen ever? That's dumb. Especially if he last time was running bulky, then I don't even KO it, and it was rolls with some things. If it was modest, and if I was staying in, he'd be like, oh, that's Pyapa Berry, why would he stay in? That's really dumb. So yeah, that's what I ran for that. Oh, Gyarados was originally Substitute, so I could set up better in front of Toxapex, and I'm like, that's dumb, I should just not even set up if he has Toxapex. So I chose Ice Fang so I could hit Crocodile better, and Breloom faster without having to get up to like +5 to do anything to them. So that's what I chose. Went with a speedier, bulkier variant. Outspeed, base speed Breloom. Jolly Breloom, I think. Probably. Yeah, 264 outspeeds that. Breloom's 262, I want to say. And then there was Celebi, which you may look at this set, Dazzling Gleam, Nasty Plot, Baton Passing, Charge Beam, and say, alright, why would you do that ever? I had my reason. If I was in a predicament where I couldn't pass the Zapdos, or I had to depend on Celebi to win, I needed a move that could hit everything at least neutrally or super effectively. Charge Beam allowed me to hit Toxapex and Skarmory. Dazzling Gleam allowed me to hit Breloom. It allowed me to hit Crocodile and Kyurem, while outspeeding all of them. So it gave me that, as well as the fact that if I'm setting up with Celebi and go for Charge Beam, I can pass that to Zapdos. These were all things that were going through my head. Hazard clearing, Cleric, that's what I like Florges for. Moonblast does plenty of damage to the things it needs to on the team and resist them quite well. Nicknames were based on the Slum Village album Fantastic Volume 2, which is one of my favorite albums. You should definitely go check it out. It's really upsetting because Slum Village has quickly become one of my favorite rap groups in the past few years, and it's really upsetting having found them in like 2015 or 2016 and finding out A, they split up very early on in their career, and B, Jay Dilla, the producer, who you may have heard of, passed away in 2006, and Batin, who was actually my favorite rapper in the group, passed away in 2008, and the only surviving member of the original three is T3, who's fantastic in his own right, but without those two, it doesn't feel as cohesive anymore. Elzai is pretty solid, and they have some good songs that they're still putting out. I think the last time they put out an album was 2013. Anyways, this is Jealousy the Gyarados, because you should be jealous of its majesty or something. Climax, because Zapdos was supposed to go crazy this match and really end it all. Eyes Up, the Nidoqueen, because, you know, its eyes are up here. I don't know what you're looking at, but its eyes are up here. To You For You, the Arcanine. I guess kind of a throwaway nickname, honestly. But Arcanine's just too cool for you. He's too you for you. Raise It Up, the Celebi. I was actually kind of afraid of that nickname, giving away the fact that I was Nasty Plot, but that's why I named it. And Fall in Love, the Florges, which, if you're a Chance the Rapper fan, you may have heard sampled on the song Everybody's Something. Let me make sure I have that track name correct. That is on Acid Rap. Everybody's Something, yeah. And you'll hear at the beginning. You'll hear don't sell yourself to fall in love. Yeah, and that's where it's sampled. I don't know if that's sampled from something else. It probably is. Dilla from Dilla. He was a big sampler, as is all hip hop music. Oh, he was such a good producer. Such a shame that he passed away so young. But yeah. So if you know Chance the Rapper, you may know that song. Anyways, those are the names. Let's get now into the match. And let's actually play music off. Switch sides. Alright. So my original thoughts looking at his team were, okay, he doesn't have his Mega. And he has pretty much the rest of the team that I expected, except he had Zebstrika over Toxapex, which allowed me to set up Gyarados easier, but it didn't allow my Zapdos to go in as freely, because I really had to watch out for just spamming Thunderbolt or Hidden Power Ice because of that. So I decided, after a bit of thought, just lead off with the Nidoqueen, get rocks up, and chip away at his team a bit. He's probably either going to lead Crocodile or Skarmory. If he leads Crocodile, I can survive it most of the time, unless he was, like, adamant. But yeah. So I go for rocks, he gets up his own rocks here, and he actually makes a really good play of scouting for the Thunderbolt, as that's just going to go right into Crocodile, and I'm like, okay, well he can't KO me, I want to see what he goes for, kind of get the hang of the set. And he goes for Knockoff, and doesn't do much damage, which tells me he's more of a bulky variant, gets rid of my Berry, which is annoying, and then I go for Ice Beam, and that does 51%, and that, yeah, at that point I knew he was relatively bulky, and not too fast, especially once I saw the leftovers, and I just stayed in. I said, I don't want to risk any switches right now, I need free switches. So I go into Celebi, and I know I'm either going to scare him out, or he's going to go for Knockoff, but that's why I have Colbur Berry. So this, let me explain the set. So Colbur Berry, with this spread, allowed me to survive 2 Crocodile Knockoffs if it was Jolly, and I calced that very specifically. I didn't calc for rocks, but I knew rolls could be in my favor, and if I got Nasty Plot up, I could just Dazzling Gleam, and not have to worry about the pass. especially because the only thing I didn't outspeed on the team was Tornadus, and I just switched out on that into Zapdos very freely. So I go for the Nasty Plot, and he actually switches in Skarmory. So as you remember, I put Charge Beam on this just for the occasion. I get to +3. He reveals the Agua Berry, goes for Iron Head, and I said, okay, now's the time where I need to pass. I can't risk going for another one of these if he's holding Whirlwind or Brave Bird or was expecting something. I don't know. But I can't risk that, and if I KO this, he can bring something in to Revenge Kill me, which isn't a position I want to be in. So I pass his Zapdos, take the Rocks damage, and he goes for Toxic, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Every time I want to sweep with Zapdos, this thing gets Toxic immediately. So I choose to go for... well, here I'm like, okay, I can't go for Thunderbolt, because Zebstrika's going to come in and try to get the boost. So I'm going to try to do neutral damage with Ancient Power. If he wants to go Kyurem, I hit that super effectively. If he goes into Crocodile, I can Hidden Power Ice that. If he goes into Tornadus, I hit it super effectively. If he goes into Breloom, I can Hidden Power Ice that. So I knew right there that Ancient Power was my best play. And lo and behold, +3 Ancient Power destroyed Zebstrika. He brings in Tornadus, and here I expect either Defog or Tailwind. And I said, okay, I need to get Zapdos out now, because if he goes to set up Tailwind and I KO it this turn, he will be in a better position to sweep me. And I really just was like, okay, no, I cannot afford that. Let me go into Florges, get rid of the rocks for Zapdos, as well as get rid of Toxic on my Zapdos. So I go in, he goes for Tailwind, and I say, okay, I'm free to Aromatherapy here, he can't really do much. Goes for Defog, gets rid of rocks for me, but also for himself, which is good and bad because, spoilers, he saves the Sash on the Breloom, and I mean, I expected Sash. He also makes it so Kyurem isn't chipped down, making it harder to sweep with Zapdos. But I get Toxic off of Zapdos, which is good. He goes out into his Skarmory, and I'm able to go into Zapdos on the switch. So he gets up his rocks again, I go for Thunderbolt and take this out. And now Tailwind has expired, and that's really what I wanted to be done. So he brings back in Tornadus, and I say, okay, he's going to go for Tailwind again. But I can't just switch around freely right now. I need to Roost with Zapdos, get it back to health. And then here, he goes for Sludge Wave and reveals that, and I'm like, ooh, okay, that's not bad. I didn't really think about what it would hit, Celebi and Florges mainly, but I knew he was attacking me, and I didn't want that. And here I know, because the Tailwind's up, I can't go for a KO on him and let him get that momentum. Because Tornadus is, when he sets up Tailwind, is kind of a kamikaze, right? So back in VGC in 2014, 15, and 16, Talonflame was very commonly used to use Gale Wings to set up Tailwind, and then Brave Bird and Flare Blitz to actually KO itself and try to pick up a KO or chip in the process in order to get more turns out of its Tailwind. So it was a really scary mon, and that helped me prep for playing around this Tailwind. So I go for Ancient Power here, and unfortunately, and kind of, not upsettingly, I mean, I'm not upset, I got the boosts from Ancient Power, that 10% chance, and I'm like, oh boy, I am in a really weird position right now. So I believe I go for Roost here, just to get all my HP back. Tailwind is now down to 1 turn, and I say, okay, I have to Roost on this Crocodile, forgetting that it was bulky, or not analyzing that it was bulky, and actually outspeeding it at +1 despite his Tailwind being up. So I go for Roost, which was kind of a misplay. He misses, which is really unfortunate for him. I go for HP Ice, miss the KO. Stone Edge does a good 54%, and I know here, I calced it, that Ancient Power had a really good chance of KOing if he was just 252 HP. Actually, it was guaranteed. And I saw leftovers, so I knew I didn't have to worry about Assault Vest, and I was like, I'll be cheeky and try to get more boosts, and just be a doofus. So I do that, and Breloom comes in, I'm like, alright, I'm expecting Sash, and, I mean, if he goes for Spore here, that's whatever, if he goes for Rock Tomb, I'm in a good position. So he does go for Spore, and I just switch out into Celebi, because I can't let him set up Swords Dance and try to sweep me. So I just go for Dazzling Gleam here and say, no, not worrying about this Breloom. Now he goes into Tornadus, And I actually expect him to go for another Tailwind, but instead he just goes for Sludge Wave and KOs my Celebi, which was kind of surprising, just because of the amount of bulk I have with 252. I didn't ever bother to calc that, but I'm sure with Timid Max it probably KOs. Let's run the calc, fuck it. I'm also curious about that Zebstrika calc, so I'm actually going to first calc Zapdos, Timid, 220, Ancient Power, +3 versus Zebstrika. What? I got a high roll, it would appear. No, I actually got a high roll. Yeah, I got a pretty high roll. So, that kind of sucks for B-Town. Because he had banded Zebstrika. I was curious how that KO'd, and wow, really unfortunate roll there. But I think if it didn't KO, I would have just been switching out. So, I mean, that's how it goes. As for Celebi, bulky support, yeah, that's what I'm running. Versus Tornadus, offensive support. Yeah, sure, Hasty, not Life Orb. Not Life Orb. Sludge Wave. Oh, wow, that actually was a middle-of-the-line roll for 56. Rolls in each other's favor. If I had gotten off a Charge Beam there, I would have gotten rid of his Tornadus, and he wouldn't have set up Tailwind. But either way, he doesn't, because I put myself in a good position with Arcanine to just go for Extreme Speed here, which is +2 priority, and will always outspeed that +1 Prankster. So he brings in Kyurem here, and I'm actually scared at this point. I say, okay, depending on his set, I could lose it all right now. If he has Life Orb, Earth Power, and is able to KO my Arcanine, then Ice Beam my Zapdos, then Fusion Bolt my Gyarados, and Iron Head my Florges, he might be actually able to win this. So I'm kind of scared. So here he goes for Earth Power. I take 50%, which is big. I go for Close Combat, do a good amount of damage, and I say, here I actually almost went for Extreme Speed to be like, okay, get some damage off beforehand. But then I realized, oh shit, if this has Roost, and I don't Close Combat this, I am fucked. So I just go for Close Combat again here as he goes for Earth Power. I get off the Intimidate onto this, and I actually missed the White Herb in the game. I skipped it and didn't notice that it had White Herb. So goes for Draco Meteor, does a good amount of damage. If that had crit, I would have been... no, it wouldn't have KO'd. And Crunch is just able to KO from there. So that was a good game to B-Town. Hopefully that gives some insight as to my thought process that game and how I played around the Devilish Tornadus Tailwind, as well as how I built my sets and why I built them the way I did, because seeing a Celebi with Nasty Plot, Baton Pass, and no Stab is really funny. But yeah, I was happy with how I played that match. I'm happy with how it played out, other than the boosts. Kind of screwed things up a little bit, but not terribly. So, I mean, it helped me survive Stone Edge and outspeed Crocodile. But yeah, good game to B-Town. Sorry about losing the audio. Hopefully, this will never happen again in the future. But yeah, Zapdos did its job really well. I was very happy with that. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Next match is on Saturday against Android.